Fewladelphia is undergoing rapid change. The introduction of a central business district has driven increased pressure on the city planning department to ensure suitable infrastructure are in place to support the level of development in the area. But under pressure, the department has made many mistakes, the worst of which we're going to be rectifying today. Yes, that's right. These truly awful, dreadful, unsafe, unsightly rail connections are going to be replaced. And whilst we're at it, we'll also add extra infrastructure to really cement Fewladelphia's rail and pedestrian-friendly status. Let's dive right in. Before we start, I do want to give a big shout out to Henry Reinach, who pointed out that actually the peony towers over here, especially with the radio mast on top, could definitely be the headquarters for the AORUS Broadcasting Company. So, oh, look at that. Who's moved in? Of course, a big shout out to ABC as well, my wonderful patron, who the AORUS Broadcasting Company is fashioned off of, the CEO of the ABC, as it were. So yeah, there we go. ABC has got a home right in the centre of downtown, and I am looking for lots more different fun brands that we can add into Fewladelphia. So if you've got ideas for names, let me know. Come and join our Discord if you want to create some signage yourself. And we're going to be plastering all of the iconic buildings in downtown with Fewladelphia style companies and brands at some point soon. But for today, the plan is to continue work on this area over here. So to start off with, the rail is a complete mess. You could even say it was dangerous, dangerously bad. That's the first thing we're going to do today, is sorting out this rail mess and putting in another second iconic station for our downtown, which we'll come on to. But before we do that, a quick word from today's video sponsor, which is Instant Gaming. If you're missing the City Stations Content Creator Pack, Modern Architecture, Urban Promenades, Bridges and Ports, any of the Cities Skylines DLCs, look no further than Instant Gaming. If you use my link in the description of this video, it helps to support the channel, but you will find yourself on Instant Gaming with huge discounts on a massive variety of games. Looking for Forza Horizon 6? Perhaps Planet Zoo or any of its DLCs? The entire Sims shebang? Well, Instant Gaming has got you covered. So go ahead and bag yourself a deal. Alright, so we're going to pause the game for this because I am going to completely destroy all of this rail section. Yes, the entire thing. And we'll go all the way up to this point for the moment. Now, this is just such a horrific mess. I have an idea of a way that we can tidy it up a little bit. So what I am going to do, and I may live to regret this, is delete part of this tunnel. And we're actually going to use network tools here just to put in an extra node on each of the tracks round about there, and then we can go back into delete mode and hopefully just delete a small section of the tunnel so we're not messing up this end where we got our lovely plaza that I don't really want to touch. But that just pulls it back a little bit, and if we grab those nodes, which I think we're grabbing, can't really tell, I'm just going to drag them back a little bit because I didn't leave quite enough space for that. So instead of having 4 tunnels coming out here and lots of those retaining walls and that sort of thing, what I do want to do is actually change it to just have essentially 2 tracks, but keeping our 4 different rail tracks intact. So I'm just going to kind of smooth out this area so we've got a little bit of an easier landing spot to come out to. And then we're going to go into rail, and I'm pretty sure this is part of T-Gun's rail infrastructure pack. We have various different 4-lane tracks here. So the 4-lane alternating track is what I do want to do, and we're going to go back underground down to 12.5 meters, which does give us that tunnel section. And so what we want to do is bring out 2 of these, and I'm actually going to do it in parallel mode. We'll make it as close as we possibly can. So let's turn off snapping for the moment, so this goes in a little bit more simply. And we'll line them up in the middle here like this, draw in our sections of tunnel. And then this is going to be really janky underground, so that's one thing that we are just going to have to kind of look past, I'll be honest. But it's going to look so much better coming out of the actual tunnel. So let's make sure we're actually down at 12.5, yes, and then we can snap these in like that. So we're all connecting in here, and like I said, that is pretty janky, but it's underground, so we're not going to notice too much, and I could use a little bit of Move It to tidy this up, which I may do later, but let's just try and get these tunnels in first. So let's go back to our 4-lane alternating track, and then we're going to bring it back up to surface height here, which will bring us out of the tunnel. So I think just having these 2 sections is going to make this just so much neater than having those 4 individual rail lines all heading out of a tunnel. It just looked a bit weird, let's face it. So So if we level these off to that height, that kind of gives us an idea of where we're working with. And I do want to raise them up a little bit because we're going to have to slope out of the tunnel here. And we can check that slope with network tools. 3% exactly. Happy with that. So let's just make sure they're exactly the same height, and that gives us a good foundation here. Now let's just see if we can get this to the height of the bottom of those rails there. There we go. That's a little bit better. So with this, what I do want to do is just bring out this height over this side. And as you can see, that is a massive pit. So I'm thinking let's level this out a little bit down to about there. And then if we make a slope between the two of them, that'll give us plenty of clearance to go under the highway here and come out the other side. So that is indeed what we are going to do with one side of the track, which will be this one. So we're simply just going to bring it straight out there. And then I'm going to use the wonderful network tools again to just add in a couple of extra nodes here so that we can get a nice bridge section on our highway. Something like that. And as you can see, yeah, that's pretty good clearance. If we just check the slope now as well to keep the train police happy, we're at 2.4%, so absolutely fine. And then let's just use a little bit of slope tool here just to smooth out some of these gradients. And that's looking a darn sight better on the tunnel entrances. So I guess you're thinking, what are we actually doing with these tracks? So here's the plan. These tracks here are going to flow out into what will become some kind of smallish rail yard, which we'll incorporate the subway into as well when we come on to do this area. But then I'm also thinking these tracks are going to head on round to the port. There is lots of lovely, reasonably flat land and bays around this side, so I'm thinking we're going to have quite large neighbourhoods and oceanfront neighbourhoods around here. So we'll definitely have some train services to those. I'm then potentially thinking one of those lines could also go all the way around to the airport, potentially hook into the intercity lines out that way too. So that's kind of going to be the direction of travel there. We may even loop it around this way, potentially, but we'll see about that. Now for the other side, I do want this to hook into our existing rail network all across the entire city, essentially. And I also, as part of that, want to move where we had the historic station, which I've now deleted, to this space here. And then what we'll do is kind of create a gentle loop up towards the station like this, making sure that we're keeping the slope within reasonable gradient. And then those lines can continue on through this district, hook into the existing line going from Tinney through to the rest of the city and the intercity lines over there too. That's the general plan. And the first thing I do want to do is place in the historic station, because I've got a very specific idea of how I want this to be. Let's start by grabbing the station, and I want it to line up essentially perfectly to the centre of our makeshift city hall here. So this absolutely needs to be front and centre to that part of the building here. Now at the moment it's a little bit offset, so let's just drag it over. And that feels not too bad. And then I am just going to try and keep that line and drag it back a little bit. And then what we'll do here is place a road in front of it. Now, we have some issues here with the landscaping. Like, we're going up quite a steep hill. We also need to get it over the highway across this side. We need to get it across road infrastructure over here too. I don't think sinking is the right way because of the height difference between the back of this station and the highway there. So in actual fact, what we are going to do is actually raise this up. So I'm going to grab all of the nodes and the station, and we're just going to hit page up and move it just a little bit, just to give ourselves a slight raise here. Now I do want this road to sit on the ground and not have those quay walls there. So we'll just adjust it like that for the moment. And then in front of the station, because we've got this really grand plaza, which we're going to come back to today as well, we're going to be actually sorting out the back of this city hall, making this building functional as well, getting lots of activity around here. But because we've got that big grand plaza, I'm thinking a big grand staircase up to our historic train station would be a really nice thing to do. So the actual height of which the station is going to depend on how our stairs sit. So I've got this awesome stair pack from Harbour Master J, and this is what we want to use here. Particularly these stairs, really like the little stone columns on them, and we can also line them up so we get a nice view of them in a row here. And yeah, we'll place 5 of them in like that. So let's just go ahead and delete this extra one. And then we also want to make sure that we are centered to our City Hall building like that. And then what we can do is grab our station again, the nodes on our road, and just drag this up to the top of the stairs and get the height nicely lined up with the top of those stairs. And that seems to not be too bad. Now the other thing with our rail station is we can add on a back entrance, which I don't think I'm actually going to do in this case. I think we're going to try and bring in assets a little bit closer to it, maybe use this hedge as a bit of a border and do some detailing around this back spot. We could also add in extra platforms, but again, I don't think we need that here. We don't really need more than 3 lines in this area, 2 of which are going to hook into our existing train station, and 1 of which is actually going to go straight on to serve the districts around this side. So I'm kind of thinking maybe this station was here before the other one was introduced, and they essentially served 2 different parts of the city, and then it was expanded to create that connection down into the main transit hub as other forms of transit like the subway, etc. were introduced into the city, just to add a bit of lore to it. So yes, let's grab our train tracks and see how we can fit this in. So like I mentioned, this one is actually going to come straight out and over. So we're going to need to lift this up. We're going to need to get it over roads, etc. So I'm kind of thinking 10 meters is probably appropriate. We can, if needs be, get over roads at 8.75. So we could try that. We've got a slope of +1, which isn't too bad, all things considered. And then if we turn off Anarchy, you can see here, we'll be able to get over those roads without any issue there. And then I'm going to create a parallel network back from, we'll start from there and see how we go, like this. And we're going to leave a small gap for reasons that will become apparent in just a minute. And we'll do a 3rd line like so. Let's not worry about these roads, we'll sort them out in a minute. And then with the middle section, what I'd like to do here is actually delete out this part of it and add in a truss bridge. Just like that, which I think adds a really nice feature in the middle of our downtown, going over all of this rail infrastructure, which will be laid out in just a second. So now here we can connect up these lines, and we can just use Move It to adjust this a tiny bit so it feels a little bit smoother. And then yes, what we'll do is continue this one over this way, just kind of laying out where it's going to be in future. And then these 2 lines, we'll chop off a tiny bit of this end here. Yeah, something like that. And we're going to try and join them up to this track here in a really nice, big, gentle curve. And then let's use the network tools slope function to see what we're working with here. So yeah, we're at 3.9%. We have got plenty of clearance under this bridge though, so we take it back to here, we get down to 3.5. And actually, if I just drop down this side of the bridge just a tiny bit, we can actually get down to 3.1, which I'm definitely happy with. Now with a bit of sloping there, that side is not looking too bad. I obviously want to add some surface work and some decals and things around it, but yeah, that gives us a much better formed rail network and exit coming out of our downtown tunnel there for sure. So now we want to hook up this side, and to be honest, I'm still unsure what we're going to do out here. I think we'll probably have a commuter station somewhere in this area, but I don't know exactly where just for the time being. So we're actually going to be pretty basic about this and just get over our highway for the time being and get it hooked into the very messy lines that we have over here. And now with the rail actually hooked in, we can now adjust these stops too. And with quite a lot of tweaking, we do now finally have the rail lines hooked in. So that should... Oh, we've got a train. I do want to change the train types as well, because the purple train doesn't look exactly great, does it? So yeah, we will do that at some point. But yeah, for now, the trains are in. So what we do need to do is now work out this road network around here, because this is a total mess. How we're going to cross underneath the rail, across the highway, and obviously hook the station in too. So we're going to start over this side. Now we do have a road that comes down this way and up this way, so I'm thinking both of these can cross underneath the rail and then hook into a two-way road that's going to cross over to this side. Obviously this is temporary, so it will go, but we can at least sort out a nice collector road that's going to head over that way. So I do want this road to be exposed, so for the moment we're going to make sure we've got snap to ground on, or keep it at ground level. We'll go down 10, we'll sort out the gradients afterwards, and we'll just get this underneath the highway like that. And I'm actually thinking it might be better to come in at a bit of an angle, so let's just grab these nodes. I'm just going to twist it like that. And then we'll grab our 2-lane one way, and again we're going to hope that this is going underneath the rail, not snapping into it. Yes it is. We'll connect that into there, and then what we're going to do is bring off this section of it to join in at that point. So that'll kind of keep traffic flowing over our big avenue road here. And this looks all kind of weird, so let's just sort that out. In fact, let's use a little bit of node controller on this one. Oh no, okay, we won't. But that's better. And I think what we'll also do as well is just widen up this one just a touch. Keep a bit more free-flowing traffic through the city. Now the trams also are going to be massively sorted out at some point. Now as you can see, that doesn't work, so yeah, we're going to need to use network tools here. We're going to add in an extra node just underneath the rail here, and then what we'll do is drop this down until we get to a point where we have got comfortably enough clearance, which is probably about there. And I'm seeing also as well that these are not upgraded into bridge sections, so let's go ahead and do that. And in fact, this probably wants to swing out a little bit further too, so let's just give it a bit of a slight angle there to get round these rail sections. And to tidy this up, we might actually just add in an extra node there, yes, and bring the retaining wall up to this side so it doesn't look quite as janky. And now what we want to do is check the height under this highway section here. So we are going to, yes, need a bridge section, and then I'd also like to add in a small retaining wall section. I am loving network tools. And I find that the retaining walls next to the bridges just gives a bit of a nicer effect, which you will see once we've tidied this all up in a second. So let's add a node underneath here, and then we can get this to the right kind of height to get enough clearance, but where it's not too low, so our slopes aren't too severe. And that looks not too bad. So let's make sure this is level to here, and then what we can do is use slope function from this point to this point. We'll apply the slope. There we go. And that gives quite a nice smooth gradient. Now we also need to do the same thing, of course, across this side. I might see if we can do something as well at the bottom of the truss bridge, which sticks out there. Feels a little bit weird at the moment. And we've got huge lumpy and bumpies, but that is so easily solved now. Bam. Just like that. So we need to sort out the terrain around here too, so we can do a bit of smoothing off and a little bit of levelling. And I think what we'll do is keep the highway at a little bit of an embankment. And yeah, generally pretty happy with that. Now we can also take off the traffic signal at this point. We don't need that here. We'll also just use traffic lane connector tools to remove unsafe and U-turns, and yes, make sure that they're flowing through here correctly. For some reason that has just added back in the traffic light, so let's remove that, and we're going to remove the crosswalks at this point too. And we could do a little bit of sort of intersection marking there, maybe a little bit later. So in terms of how we're going to hook the train station in down here, let's create an intersection at this point, and then we can use complex curve to create a bit of a bend up towards the station there. And then we've got some interesting areas that we can fill out at this point. And we probably do want to upgrade this section to a key wall side, which, yes, looks a bit nicer there too. Now over this side, you guys did not like the automated parking building, and in fact we actually don't have very many vehicles parked there at all, so it's going to go. We'll get rid of that. And then we do just want to do a bit of sorting out on these road networks here, make sure that we can get to the other side of the railway and probably hook into this road back here too. So we actually have a ton of people moving around this area, moving around the station. And yeah, we've got people on all of the different platforms here because we spread the trains out and it looks quite good. It was really busy a minute ago and I just missed the train. Yes, sorry. Oh, here comes the train now. But the station is definitely getting a lot of usage. So we can see, well, it comes up, wow. It comes off this Atkinson train here. So yes, absolutely crowds of people. Now what we want to do is try and avoid them walking all the way down these side streets here and give them access directly down our stairs. So for this, we're going to use invisible pathway networks, and we're very simply just going to connect them up underneath the stairs, like so. And then what we're also going to want to do is make sure that they have facility to cross here. Now I'm actually going to pause it. We've got so many people coming out. I'm hoping some of them might go across this crossing. So what I was originally thinking was I was just going to add a pedestrian crossing here. And you'll see, I mean, they've all kind of pathed round, unfortunately, round the other way now. But what they end up doing is just looking like crazy zombies with thousands of people crossing a tiny, tiny little pedestrian crossing. So I want to give a huge shout out to David Atkinson, one of my Patreons. When we were doing some testing in the Discord with my members and Patreons, I was having a bit of a laugh at how bad this crossing element got. But David had the idea to actually convert this whole bit of road to a pedestrian street, which I love the idea of. So now because we've got a car park in here, I'd also quite like to bring in a bit of a taxi rank, I think, up to this point. So we're only going to have a small section of pedestrian street from about here to here. So we can remove that centre node now too, and let's go ahead and upgrade this section here. And with that, I think what we will do here is also upgrade this to our suburban street, so it doesn't have the road markings on it. Not really necessary for this kind of area. We're also going to add a thick sidewalk to get rid of some of these cars parking here. And then at this point, let's go ahead and grab a taxi stand. And we get a nice bay in for our little taxi rank there. So what I would also like to do to that is just add in some street marking for it. That looks a little bit nicer. We've got a nice taxi bay there. And yeah, as you can see, everyone is sinking into the stairs. That's not ideal. So to try and get them to stop sinking in, I have just paused the game because I'm going to go on to the next thing that I do want to do, which is talk about out the front here. What I would like to do is add in a really nice wall with a bunch of commercial essentially sunk into it, as if it was built underneath this road in maybe the archways or the trenches of the train station. The sewers maybe one day, I don't know. But because we're opposite City Hall here as well, I think it'd be a really nice place to have a big long row of trendy cafes and bars and restaurants and that sort of thing. And there's a particular asset that I do want to use quite repetitively here, which is this EU commercial low asset. So we just place it in. It's a 3x2, so it's not too wide by any means. You can see that if we sink it back in, it goes completely underneath this road here. Now obviously we get these weird lumpies and bumpies, and we don't want that. So let's just remove that and go back a step. Because the next thing I do want to do is use these terrain leveling tiles here. So if I place this in, but essentially it is just a building, but it levels the terrain down. So you can, for example, if we just grab one here and raise it up, we can use that to raise up the terrain. We don't want to do that, so we won't. And just a shout out, these are by Source Design. They're available on PDX Mods if you want to look them up. But we can use these all the way up along this wall here, just to flatten this all out so we're not getting all those horrible lumpies and bumpies. I'm going to do it underneath the stairs as well, which I think is going to help with them not walking up the terrain and actually walking up our stairs there. We'll do them all the way along like that. And then before we do the commercial, let's just come back to the invisible paths and see if we can get this hooked in a bit better. I think this is around about a 5 meter height off the ground here. So we can hopefully use this to get it in a little bit nicer. And I'm actually going to turn off all snapping and see if that helps at all. And that immediately looks a lot better. Obviously it's not perfect, it's never going to be completely perfect, but that is actually pretty damn good. I'm quite pleased with that. So going back to the commercial, you can now see if we place this in, we'll get it nicely snapped to the road like that. Now it doesn't like being underneath a pedestrian road, which is why I actually haven't extended this out longer across this strip, because it makes it a little bit awkward. So I think what we might do is grab the static ploppable version of this asset, which is this one, and we can add one of those in right next to the step segments here, or where we've got that pedestrian road up top. And I don't know why, I think it's because pedestrians can track all over it and messes up the pedestrian markers within the actual commercial buildings themselves. So yeah, we can have those in here, and then what we'll do is have the actual functional commercial. And we can always add in a block service actually as well, but then we'll have the functional commercial coming up next to it. But before we get too far with that, I do want to make this wall nice. Now you'll notice I have purposefully not put in a key, and you might have been thinking, why am I using these terrain leveling things and not putting in a key? Well, it's because I actually want to avoid the fence on it. I don't think it looks particularly nice for what we want to have here. So what I'm actually going to use the French wall, this one here. So let's get line tool. And we want to be on this mode here, and we're going to drag them in all the way along like this. And then what we're going to want to do is grab only props. We'll go ahead and grab all of them. We're going to raise them up, and we're going to push them back against this wall here like that. And then also, I'm not overly keen on the texture of this, so I think what we're going to do is use a wall decal to cover them up. So seeing as we've got a lot of red brick, I'm thinking red brick. So yes, let's go ahead and use that. So we need to run this all the way along our walls. And also the other side too. Like that. And then I'm also thinking in between the commercial, we can just add a really nice little thing that kind of ties it into, I guess, other places in the downtown, which is using some of these pillars from the DIY rail bridges pack. So this would be a really nice framing up against our stairs here too, and this will help to position all of the commercial in place as well. So yeah, that is the general gist, but what I would like to do is kind of go through this and change some of the businesses in this. So I have got the change company mod now, and with that, okay, so this one is meals, that's fine. Let's lock this in as a company, But here, for example, we've got textiles, so I actually want to change this, and we will do entertainment, beverages. We've got bev pop. I don't like that. Crazy Calibri. Is that a bar? I don't know. We can keep that. We'll go down and make sure that all of these are sort of generally food or drinks / entertainment themed. And I also really don't like the signs on top, so we're going to go ahead and use Better Bulldozer to remove all of those. Alright, so what I would like to do with these is kind of add in little seating areas outside the front of them with some hedges, some fences, some pergolas, that sort of thing. Have a different vibe for each of them, so like the ice cream bar could be more sort of bright red seating, for example, whereas Il Mucci, and we might extend it out into this one, make a massive restaurant here, will be a little bit more of a classic private dining area. But just before we do that, actually, one really important thing, I would really like to have some kind of pedestrian bridge, I think, coming across this road here. Alright, so let's go and tidy up the front of our station. so I did just have to start recording at this point because, oh my goodness, so many people. It is pretty cool, actually. And I kind of realise now that I've put this in, this probably feels quite European, this little strip of restaurants and bars, but I quite like it. And at the end of the day, we may have taken inspiration from Philadelphia for a lot of our downtown, but this is a fantasy city and there's lots of European influences and global influences throughout, so I'm going with it. I'm going with it. But yeah, really pleased with this little section. Lots of nice variation in the net lanes and things around it, the different fences, and I think it gives each establishment their own personality. I'm loving this massive Ulmucci here. And I did also, actually, just a note, manage to use extra detailing tools to transform some of the French walls, to add in a little side piece here so we can't even see under the stairs. This just works so brilliantly. Really, really pleased with this. And had we have just put in the simple key wall and not used some of the terrain elevation points, then we would have had a fence, of course, at the top of these stairs as well. So huge benefit from using those terrain conforming blank building things just to shape this out and make this perfect. Now these buildings are functional, and I have also added in block services to the empty buildings that we put around the bottom of the pedestrian area up there. But I'm not seeing a huge amount of activity, and I think that's probably because they're low density commercial, maybe. And I mean, if we take a look, we've still got maximum, actually, we've got office demand again, brilliantly. But we also have maximum commercial demand, so I don't know, hopefully we'll see the odd person coming in and out. And I'm still very, very hopeful that one day we'll get functional props, and in which case we might actually see people sitting at our tables. I was tempted to get the citizen packs to try and fill some of it in and make it feel a bit more alive, but I'm holding out. I'm holding out hope. But hopefully the vibe's there at least. I also want to talk about this building because you might be thinking, what on earth did I do here? I made this into a nightclub. Because of the moon, I kind of thought that was appropriate. I'm not really sure what the witch and the fork is about. I don't really get that logo. So anyway, this is the area that they queue when they go in the main entrance down here, and then this is an enclosed space from the non-functional building, which is like a smoking area, basically. I thought it was kind of neat in my brain. Anyway, now I do just want to briefly talk about this road. Now, I'm not actually going to touch on trams in this episode. It is coming, I promise. Definitely the episode after this, but we've just got a lot more that I want to do within this one. But my plan for this is to actually move the tram line here. I don't like that it's in the middle of a really busy road. So I think segregating it and also putting it up against this big kind of long pedestrian strip up here is going to be the wisest move. So what I've done is created this road that you can see here in Road Builder, which just essentially moves the tram lines that we did have on the old road just to the side of it. So it keeps the tram nicely enclosed here. We've got a wide enough median that we can put stops on either side as well. And then we've still got our bus and our normal car lanes out here, and everyone's going to freak out and wonder what the hell they're doing. But I just think with how busy this strip is as well, that's going to really help to keep the cars and that main traffic away from all of the pedestrians coming out of the station. But we still do have the problem with the tram pillar here, so I'm wondering if we do add in some kind of crossing, whether this will help to solve it. Because the other thing is we've had an awful huge amount of crowds trying to cross the road down here. So let's just make sure this is in the centre to start off with. And I really, really wish that we could widen out these crossings. I don't think it is something that we can do with no controller. I don't think it sort of widens the actual crossing. I guess we could widen the decal, but the people are still going to walk down the middle of it, which is kind of annoying, not going to lie. So maybe we do just reset that one to vanilla for the moment. And we do have a light on it too, which I think will be very much needed. We've also got some kind of void in the middle there. Wonderful. I mean, just look at this. This is absolutely mental. Absolutely mental. We finally have a busy feeling city, and I'm just, yeah, absolutely loving this staircase. So next thing I do want to do is go and start adding in some buildings around our train station here. I'm going to do this in a brief time lapse because it's not going to be that dissimilar to what we've done in the downtown already. We'll just have some blocks of residential. I'm definitely thinking a big hotel behind the station here, which might be quite appropriate, particularly with the pedestrian access going over from the front of the station. And of course mixing in the odd block of office too. And I also want to shout out Noah and DaveMan82 who mentioned we definitely need some gas stations throughout the downtown, so we'll be adding one of those too.
I must admit I got a little bit carried away in this session, and there's some pretty cool details I probably ordinarily wouldn't have just stuck into a time lapse. So I'll go through all of this in just a second, but firstly just to say, this has not quite turned into the episode I actually had planned. I was originally thinking we'd now continue to do the back of City Hall and also something over in this little rail loop area over here. However, a heatwave has struck the UK, which means I'm working in my office in, I don't even know how hot it is with both my PCs running. It's insane. So everything seems to have taken me 3 times as long as it normally would. And also, as you'll be aware now, there was also a patch dropping tomorrow as I say this. So we're going to leave it as a to be continued with some things around this space. Trams included. Trams next time, I promise. Trams, yes. Coming very soon. But anyway, let's take a look around what we have here. So around this station, I did just do a couple of little tweaks to the surfaces, added a few little net laying curb edges in here just to brighten it up and smarten it up. We obviously added on the cafe extension, or the commercial extension. There's a few little props and tables and things appeared outside, which I love now. But I actually just decided to keep it pretty much as is. So we've left the car park as is, we've left the green space, we've just changed up the surfaces a bit. And I think it works really nicely. And I also decided to leave this bit of pedestrian road here. It was pretty tricky to get surfaces nicely over it, so I don't know, we might come back to that. It looks a little bit plain at the moment. Yeah, as you can see, still tons and tons and tons and tons of people walking all around here and over our pedestrian bridges as well. So we do have one either side, I failed to mention. Got this one here, lovely and busy, and also one over this side. Also just as busy. Absolutely loving the pedestrian traffic around here. And I'll just say at the bottom of this one, I had a real hard time trying to grab the nodes and move it. So there's a really wonky bit at the bottom. So I just decided to sink a little stair in and they walk up it perfectly. It's worked like an absolute charm here. Love this to get them up there. Now at the back of the station here as well, we did just remove a bunch of the props and just added in a little bit of a worn grass area. I thought I removed the props. Okay, well we'll come back to that. I definitely removed the props. So yeah, we just got a bit of worn grass and a few trees and a nice hedge border. I also decided to add in the back entrance manually, but people can't actually walk through here. I could join it up, I suppose, to the underpasses down here. But for now, I'm kind of content for it to be a bit of a prop building because it means we're getting lots and lots of people over our overpasses, which is pretty cool. And speaking of overpasses, I did want to mention that this one is functional, as that lady has just demonstrated disappearing into the building. So yeah, we do actually get the odd person walking over this one, which is pretty cool. Heading back to this area, so I did decide to add in a hotel at the back here. So this big tall tower here is a hotel and it still doesn't have a business in it. We just don't have any tourists, I swear, in this city. So our city attractiveness is at 100. I mean, it's pretty attractive. It's very attractive around the downtown, so I can't really see a reason why we wouldn't get a business here. Is this just still bugged? Is it because I plopped it? I'm wondering if I can actually force a company. Oh, I can. Well, there we go. We've forced a company in, so problem solved. Let's just lock that before they abandon. So yeah, we've got a big hotel at the back here, and then we've just got some apartments, essentially, some slightly nicer upscale apartments.
They are really packed in next to the highway, so I have added a sound barrier around this back point. Then as we come up to this end, we're actually going into a low rent area. So things start to sort of look a little bit more worn here. So we've got just sort of bare, disused patches of grass, a little bit of the concrete cracking in places. And then of course, as you would have seen, we've got a big skate park and a basketball court that's all a little bit worn and used here. But fully functional, even though there's no one in that, and we have homeless moved into the basketball courts. Wonderful. But yeah, all of these towers here are low rent, along with these ones as well from the China region pack. And I think this was a good place for it because it really is sandwiched into a major highway junction in between the rail, and yeah, just not a great overall location. I wouldn't say this is prime real estate at this point. I mean, they are getting some quite nice views down over the central rail station and City Hall there, but anyway. But that is what we decided to do this end. Now ignore these decals. I'll be honest, being so hot, I don't know what I was thinking. They're all a little bit weird. I think we're going to add some net lanes in here on the rail track, so all of this will change at some point. But yeah, just look away for now. And then I did go around adding in tons of decals up here next to the highway. So you can see this with a few bushes here. That's all from the Real Vision decals pack. And then down here we've done something similar, just a few odd decals just to bring a bit of life to these odd slopes up next to the highway there. And then we did add in a bit of a disused sort of, I'm not sure what it might have been. It could have been a building here that's collapsed and it's just kind of been left because it's in this really awkward, noisy, heavily polluted, probably from all the cars driving past plot here in the corner. And I went a little bit nuts overlaying decals on top of decals on top of decals to get this really kind of varied, patchy surface effect in here. We're pretty pleased with how it looks. It's a nice little empty plot feature next to our low rent housing area. And then we move on to a bit of commercial mixed in with offices, so not really too much to shout about here. Just quite a few little office buildings, some from quite a few of them again from the Chinese regional pack. I really like some of the high density assets within that. Now we've mixed in a bit of urban promenades into here. We've also got some underground parking as well. So I know a lot of you said get rid of the parking garage, put in underground parking, and because the capacity of them isn't significantly less than that big one, we have gone for that option here. So this one only has 100 spaces and it is full. But we have got other ones like this one. I'm pretty sure this one takes 300 by Greenie. Oh, it's 280. And that one's almost full as well. Hey, let's just delete those bushes again, shall we? And then as we come down here, we just got a little bit of row housing. I did some odd things with this bit of alleyway road here, which I can see is a bit wonky. That needs a tiny bit of touching up. I wanted to get a retaining wall on this side next to this big tower office, and then add in some makeshift pavement for the houses going up this side, which is all a little bit wonky because of the landscape, so we'll look away from that. But it's a nice little block of small residential. I also use quite a few of those terrain conforming plots just to shake down the terrain here, like the access to the parking garage on this building at this point. And I mean, it's kind of a dangerous place to sit up there, but each to their own. And then the row housing continues on this side with some Japanese buildings this time as well. I was imagining that they're probably on the lower rent side, again being sandwiched in between such heavy highway and rail infrastructure over here. Then I used some of the generic office pack by Patrickette. There's lots of different generic office buildings by them on PDX mods. Really like these. They're just kind of simple, typical, standard office. Largely undecorated. Like them. Blended nicely. And then we do have the big, I think it's the Shiranui Shimbun head office tower here, overlooking the rail. So I do quite like this view coming in here, where we've got big towers and all quite built up around the rail as we come in. Again, try to ignore some of these decals. Yeah, that will all change. And up next to rail here, I kind of kept things a bit simple. I thought there'd be a retaining wall in some places, so it's a little bit varied. I probably should have carried on the same theme of the rocks or the cobblestone on either side, so that's potentially something we could go through and update. And then we come down, we have our first gas station on the corner here, which I really like because this road obviously is two directional coming from this side of the map. Splits into one-way system here, so we've got a gas station on this one-way part and we've got a gas station on this side too. So kind of pleased with how that sits. I did realise though that this just doesn't work with the lights and and the traffic lights. So I'm wondering if we can use a little bit of node controller here just to help maybe control that. And we could pull back the traffic light a little bit, but then they're coming out onto a junction, so maybe this wasn't the best place for it. I mean, let me know your thoughts. I can also see my surface now doesn't extend now that I've taken away the parking from that side of the road. But anyway, lots of issues here. And then this is one thing that I thought was kind of neat. We added in a makeshift prop graveyard just to the side of the church that we'd got already over here. So that kind of loops around into this space beside the rail on this side, round the back of these buildings here. And then we come onto our other garage, a little bar, making use of some awkward space there with a touch of parking, and then a bit of a fused apartment building right here up next to the station too. And I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, it did turn into a much larger area than I thought, with a few little pockets of cool stuff like our skate park and our basketball over there. I know quite a few of you are saying, where is the sports in the downtown? Don't worry, that's coming. It is coming, just not right in the centre. But yes, that's a nice extra chunk of our downtown filled in as we start to bring down that density and bring down that height as well as we move away. I do want it to continue on either side of the highway here. I don't want it to feel like the highway is some kind of barrier to the edge of the city. So I want to continue some of that theming, particularly probably low rent housing around here as we go on to potentially a rail yard or something of that description across this side. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, tons of smaller projects to still do in the downtown. But that's a nice big chunk done. And our rail looking much better at the north side there. So for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons and members as always, and in particular our Universe Mayor, Thomas Campus. Thank you so much for the insane support. And if you want to join the Fewniverse, check out the links in the description of this video for ways you can get involved and support the channel. But that's all from me for now. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.